Welcome to the SnapCast podcast, where two friends who love Magic the Gathering, Brad O'Brien and Zach Muller, talk about all things competitive, casual, and financial in the world of MTG. How's it going this week, Zach?
Not too much, Brad. How about yourself?
That was like totally, boom, automatic.
That was probably the best entry we've had so far.
There's a little high five for you audio listeners. We're patting ourselves on the back for the start of another SnapCast. Anything exciting happened since I last saw you?
Not really. Our work has been okay for the time being. Pretty soon we'll be going into spring, and I do pest control for those that don't know. And so springtime, we do a lot of tick and mosquito treatments, and we get flooded with the calls from basically end of March through June. So
what they call mud season around here in Maine.
Yep. So I'll be busy in the next few months, hopefully.
Man, we got some cool stuff to talk about. A brand new Kickstarter for a whole new design deck box. Some secret layers that are going now. Some secret layers that I missed that I'm kind of excited about.
Yep.
What else are we talking about?
We had a few other Magic Online events over the weekend. We also have a 1K that me and Brad will be going to on Saturday that we'll probably talk about a little bit. And I believe the Professor released a deck box.
Yep, mention that. And then maybe some cards that we're interested in, the financial ramifications of in general and things that we think you should snap up. So let's talk right about this deck box that the Professor has announced. Oh, there go our show notes. There go the cards we're going to talk about. So I love GAMEGENIC boxes. Actually, all of my GAMEGENIC boxes are in my Magic bag in the entryway. I really like their boxes. They make nice stuff. I'm going to make sure that this audio is off so YouTube doesn't flag us. The Professor has announced that he's doing a Kickstarter, which I think is interesting.
Yep.
Because obviously they're making these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they already have it designed. He's got a couple of them. Seeing a big company that has tons of product on the shelf doing a Kickstarter is a weird thing to me.
Yeah, it's good that they're branching out to well-known content creators, though, to design and do this, right? Like, it's a huge step. I don't think they've actually done this before. I don't think anyone's done this before. Outside of maybe with game nights, Command Zone, stuff like that.
Right, and usually those are just, they're like skins.
Yeah.
You know, like those guys, a lot of those, bigger podcast production companies, game nights, they might have a custom deck box. Mm-hmm. But it's the regular deck box with the Game Nights logo on it or something else. And this box, we have it on the screen for those of you that are watching on YouTube, has the Tolarian Community College symbol embossed on the other side. It almost looks at first, before you understand the scale of this thing, it looks like one of those much bigger, like multi-deck boxes.
Yeah, and when he first previewed just the box on Twitter and other social media, that was my first assumption too.
Woo!
Was it's just one of those more elongated deck boxes for cubes, multiple decks, something like that.
Yeah, I had kind of talked with Andy about it, and I'm like, what kind of product would the Professor do? Like, there's no such thing as a Pauper deck box. Is it going to be a Merfolk only deck box? And so we started talking about like Cube or wanting to bring multiple commander decks. So our speculation was it would be something like that. Obviously, he's very commander focused.
Yep.
And I think that shows in this box. It's gorgeous with the black outside and the purple inside. Like it really is pretty. It has one of those features that he really likes, which is the magnets that sit into a little hole.
Okay.
So you can sort of see the lump on this side fits into that hole on the main body of the deck box, so that they can't come apart.
I don't think I actually saw that in my first preview of the video. I think I saw, the indentations on the black felt, but I didn't actually see the dots on the outside.
This is weird to me. I don't know how I feel about this. So the box has what looks like one deck compartment and what looks like maybe 3 dice or token trays.
Yep.
And the token trays also have flaps. And I say token trays because they preview it.
Tokens and other things going into them.
Right. And I think that's mostly just letting you know this will fit sleeved cards. Like the size of that tray will fit sleeved cards. And then they put a D20 in the top and like a life counter. Part of that I love is that when you open up a deck box that has a dice tray, like I have an old school Satin Tower here, when you sit down to play, if you want access to your deck and your dice tray and your lid, oh, what did I just throw there? Osgear the Reconstructor. Like, to have your deck available and your dice tray,
it's awkward.
It's kind of awkward, and like you just saw me trying to pop this thing apart, it does that. So I like in his design that the main dice tray is open as soon as you open the box, and it's right on the top. Mm-hmm. So if you have it sitting next to you while you're playing, that seems really convenient. I don't know about 3 trays.
Yeah, 3 trays seem like he needed to do something with all that extra space. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to have the top half of that be for dice or tokens, you have all that extra space on the bottom, right, that you now have to figure out, well, what are you going to do with it? Like, what are you going to put in there? So having 2 extra trays kind of makes it feel like that's what they're there for, just kind of to fill space. But it is nice. You can keep your tokens in a separate compartment from the actual deck, which is nice. It's for someone that does a lot of deck box reviews, sleeve reviews, stuff like that. People were saying, I'm really hyped to see his review for his own product. What kind of grading do you think he's going to give his own product, guys?
Well, and if you figure, I think typically he gives GameGenic stuff good grades because they're really well made. And then, yes, he had all the input on this design. Yeah, what is he going to give this?
Yeah. If it's anything less than an A+, then I'm going to be surprised.
Well, and he should be disappointed, right?
Yep.
I think if I have, obviously I don't know him, but I'll be surprised if he reviews his own deck box.
I think he's hinted that he will at some point, probably after it's been...
Oh, has he?
I think he made a comment about it in one of his Twitter posts, but I'm sure it will be reviewed in the next year or so by him.
I'm seeing... Oh, that's inside the trays. So I have it frozen on the screen where I just noticed that there's 2 flaps here.
So I was actually wondering this because the way that the top cover sits, it does, it has magnets on the bottom, so you can tuck it on the bottom of the deck box when it's sitting next to you. But if the flaps are folded up, you can't easily access those trays for the dice and stuff. So I was actually wondering how that would be resolved. And it seems like they've actually added just a second flap
that you can pull
down.
And it opens the front side up.
Yeah.
And then the 2 dice trays also have flaps, which was something I didn't notice the first time I watched this video. And thinking about, okay, what's the improved functionality there? Like, if you have dice in one, you can open it up and just shake them out? That's the only thing I can imagine.
I guess, but by doing that, you're also taking up more table space because you have to keep the first flaps down.
Right.
So you're not really fixing table space issues because you have to keep that open if you're going to continually access those dice, unless you just take the whole thing out. But
right.
It's cool though, right? I mean,
right. I'm not crapping on it, and I certainly have not put any amount of thought into what my perfect deck box would be.
Sure.
Every time somebody comes out with a new deck box design, I'm like, that's awesome. And I grab one, and then I'm like, this is the best deck box ever for like 6 weeks. And then I'm like, yeah, it's just another deck box.
Yep. Well, and that's kind of why the old Satin Tower Ultra Pro deck boxes, I have like 5 of these.
Yeah.
They're the best ones that I've ever used. I love them. I'll probably end up buying the Professors though, because it's cool.
And I'll have one of those. And this, like, we're going to talk about going to the 1K later. Going to an event, I will put my deck in one of these.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, of course, all the good ones are in the other room, but like this style Ultra Pro that holds a deck and no dice, I don't want to take this to an event and have dice and tokens or whatever else I need in a separate container. This is nice. Pick it up. You got your dice, your whatever. But it's a little awkward.
It is. But it takes up the least amount of space on your side of the table. You know, you might have a playmat, you might not, but next to your playmat, you're gonna have your notepad and then your deck box for things, for tokens, for dice, and the towers just take up the least amount of space.
From my experience, I like to try and do this.
I've done that.
Right, so wherever I'm sitting, these are off to the side, and I've got my sideboard over here and dice. That's how I like to set up for a game. They're a little outdated. They're a little, like, you can hear it clicky clacky. It's not the nice, magnetic thing you get with the newer deck boxes. But I don't think you can go wrong with these. The other thing is you can walk on this, you can smash it. This is not a Professor's Review deck box.
No, it's not. It's not.
I like the inventiveness of it. I think it is super attractive. We haven't even talked about where the deck goes in. So this is called the 133XL.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely designed for like a commander deck with, double sleeved, hard sleeves. They show the deck sitting in the box raw, and then there's a divider, and it looks like you can fit
more. It's either more tokens or
it looks like you can fit these things, and hard loaders.
Yep.
In behind the deck, like it's way taller than your Magic cards, and they actually show something that looks like hard loaders.
Yep.
Yeah, you can even sort of see the angle at the top.
Yep, that's probably what they are.
And I do know a lot of the people in my regular commander group use those for their commander.
Okay.
So but you don't have. I mean, I guess you might have partners, but I don't need 4 of those hard loaders in there.
I wonder if they would also fit the old oversized commander cards that used to come in the commander precons.
Those things are big.
Those are pretty big, though, yeah.
And then they show you can reconfigure it by moving that clear divider.
I thought that was the coolest part out of the whole thing. Honestly, like having a divider that is easily removable. You can tuck it away somewhere for whatever reason. I think that's just great.
And then it fits a regular GameGenic box and more cards.
Yep.
It really is a good design. I can't say anything bad. I think that those dice tray are awkward, but I always think dice tray are awkward. That's why I don't like the big flip and fold things with the dice tray in the middle. I've never been a huge fan of those. But congrats to the professor and to Tolarian Community College.
Yeah.
Collaborating with GameGenic. Their Kickstarter went live. Good for them.
Not quite live. It's live on the 15th. So
what the heck is today?
Today's the 2nd. So they've now officially previewed what the deck box is, but the Kickstarter isn't live until the 15th. But it's already had something like 140,000 followers on Kickstarter already. So, to say the least, it's going to be a pretty good hit amongst the Magic community.
Yeah. We have this came out a while ago, and we haven't talked about it. And most people that watch this podcast for any length of time know I'm a fan of the Secret Lairs. I think that they give Wizards a really interesting way to try out different arts that they can't just do in a normal set. I don't care about Street Fighter at all. I don't know if you feel differently.
No, I feel about the same. I thought the Secret Lairs were cool in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then they started to do all these spin-offs like Street Fighter, and they're going to do a Fortnite one later on this year, and it's just a cash grab. And at what point do we just get too many?
Well, I guess it depends on if you're spending the money on it or not.
That's true.
So, like the Street Fighter one, they're not going to get any money from me. To be fair, even when I thought about the latest Extra Life one where you could get the Crater Huff with the kids' drawings, I told myself I was going to buy one, and then I forgot about it, and it was over. So I just went on and bought the Crater Huff, and it was still way cheaper than a regular foil Crater Huff was beforehand. So I was totally fine with it. I can ignore these Street Fighter cards.
Yep. I can.
As a matter of fact, for most of the stuff in this secret lair, they have little walkers, like baby art planeswalkers. Don't care. Baby art Soren Grim Nemesis. Like, it's an interesting animation art style.
Yep.
And that's sort of a theme here. More stuff from Kamigawa. More Japanese style art. None of these did anything for me. But when I was reminded that I haven't been looking at the Secret Lairs in a while, I actually saw the Secret Lair art collaboration that they did with an organization called Mischief, which I had heard a whole bunch of people talk about it, and I don't know. There was a brief while there where I was getting ready to refinance my car.
Yep.
Where I was like, I'm not spending money on stuff I don't need. And so I kind of put up blinders. I was not buying fancy whiskeys. I was not buying magic cards. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I have to make sure that I can finance this car and keep my house and do the important stuff.
Yep. Adult stuff.
But
and then you found this.
So today and yesterday, I've been looking for cards that I think are undervalued, things that I wanted to talk about in the cast. And I specifically thought about the Crater Huff that I just ordered and was like, that's a fair price. So I started just looking on TCG Player at all of the Secret Lair cards. And the first one that I saw was this wild-looking Blood Moon. So on the screen, we have the Blood Moon foil-etched gold Mischief Secret Lair Blood Moon. And I don't know, it's like a vintage, almost Art Deco style. Really crisp black and gold, like not black and white, but like, I don't know what this is going to look like in foil etching, but in a Commander deck, if you're playing a Blood Moon in Commander, this is probably the most striking Blood Moon I've ever seen.
I would agree. As we kind of mentioned before, as we were talking about a little bit before the cast, we don't know how this is going to look in foil. Going off of what we do have for etched foil cards from MH2 and some of the other Commander-specific sets, some of them, depending on the backgrounds and stuff like that, they look really dark. Yeah. So, like my Civloons of Sea and Sky, they're foil etched, and
so much darker than a regular
one. They're so much darker than a regular one. I'm actually considering getting just regular foils just because I like it. I just don't like how it looks in the etched, in the foil etched. Yep. So this is going to be interesting to see if it's, because it's a much lighter background with the gold, it might look better.
Yeah.
But we don't know until they're in people's hands.
I do wish I had, a higher res version of this to look at other than what's on TCG. Can't quite read I'm guessing this is flavor text, which is interesting. Enchantment, non-basic lands or mountains, 2 in a red. Like, this one compared to some of the other wacky arts that they've done, you can certainly tell the cost, the effect, the name.
Mm-hmm.
A foil Blood Moon for $27, or, as 27, 27, 27. This may get cheaper when they arrive, or people might get these in their hand. So I guess that's the question.
Yep.
People are going to get these in their hand, and they're going to say the foil etching on this is amazing, and it's a $50 card. or the foil etching on this is not that good and it's a $15 card.
Yes, I mean it's gonna come down to opinion,
Yeah.
people's opinion. Now, Blood Moon is one of those cards that has a wide selection of artworks to choose from. I mean, that could also dictate a price down the road. Because there's so many different artworks. If you're trying to, not just for EDH, but if you're trying to put these into constructed decks, you need more than one. You want them all to match. It's just going to depend. I think this is the most fanciest version for an EDH deck, for sure, other than the borderless one from MH2, which is really nice. Yeah. Is it MH2 or is it Double Masters?
Double Masters.
Double Masters.
The Meatball Moon.
Yep. I actually really like that one. But this other one, this gold version,
yeah,
it's right up there.
So, and this is one of those instances where, okay, at $25, $27 to order it, even pre-order, when, the cheapest Blood Moon you can get is $15, paying $10 extra for this in foil etched seems like, even as a pre-order, even if the price goes down a little bit, it's a safe bet in my book. That full art one is $38, not foil.
Yep.
I was astounded at how this looked, and especially now looking at this page and saying the three fancy Blood Moons are the borderless from Double Masters, the Masterpiece Invocation, which is unfortunately not very good.
Yep. It's also one of the highest priced ones at the moment on this page.
Yeah. Well, all the invocations and inventions, they're rare, they're expensive. People don't want to let them go for less.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised it's expensive. And the art on it is good if you can see it. Versus this one, the art is the whole card.
Yep. It pops really well off the card. If you're digging for it if you're playing EDH and you're looking for a specific enchantment with one of the tutors or something, this is going to catch your eye really easily.
So, again, not wanting to spend a whole lot of money I don't need on Magic cards. I don't plan on playing Blood Moon in Modern, and I'm trying to unfoil my Modern and 60 card stuff.
Yep.
I will tell you that, with one exception, I've ordered one of each of the cards in this set. Because, again, for Commander, I think this is awesome. Another great Commander card, Grim Tutor. Look at this card. What is this going to look like when it comes in person?
This is great, though. I mean, this one, did we say this one does come in foil?
Yes.
It does come in foil.
So it's called it's a foil, but the foil treatment is silver laminate. What does that mean? I don't know. But you can pre-order the foils for $12.
Yeah. I mean, and this is, would you call this a EDH staple for most decks that play those colors, these colors?
Yeah. Anybody playing black that could play a Grim Tutor will play a Grim Tutor. Absolutely. And it's one of those cards that didn't get reprinted for a long time. It just had the starter deck Grim Tutor.
Okay.
And we'll do the same thing. We'll look at all of the different Grim Tutors. And so you had starter 1999, and then you had the M21 and M21 pre-release, and the full art that they gave you in that. Now, the full art for that non-foil is selling for $18. You can pre-order this one in the silver laminate foil for $12. Again, what are you going to lose? What's it going to go down to?
I mean,
$10, $8?
Yeah. I'd be okay with losing $4 value off of that. If I pre-order at 12, that's fine.
I would rather order it at 12 now, have them hit the shelves, and people go, this foil's gorgeous. This is not $12. This should be at least $18. This should be at least as much as the other
premium
version of this card. And this is another one where you only need one. I mean, or one for every black deck.
Right.
Right.
One for every black EDH deck you play.
Yeah. So I think they just knocked it out of the park, and the last one that I ordered one is this Swords to Plowshares. Foil etched gold, just that gold is going to pop, I think. Again, it could be dark, but even against the black, a shiny gold, even if it's a little dark, when you're shuffling through your deck looking for swords or when it's in your hand and you look down and see this card, it's so distinct.
It is. And I will say the text for this one is actually much more legible than some of the other fancy, weird artwork cards from Secret Lairs in the past.
Yeah.
Abrupt Decay from that series comes to my mind. The picture's kind of all jumbled. The mana cost is weird. It's off put somewhere, and this one it's much more legible than some of the other ones.
There goes the cat. So I would definitely, so looking at those, it was 27 for the Blood Moon, 12 for the Grim Tutor. And how much was the...
I think it was around the same price.
About $10.
That's even
so
better.
Here's the thing. I got the 3 cards that I wanted for about $50.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the least that drop would have sold for is $40.
Yep.
I think it sold for more. I think because it was an artist collaboration, I think it was a $50 Secret Lair, but I can't go back and look at it.
Yeah.
So, what is the card that I'm not getting is Teferi's Puzzle Box, which is not a card that I play anymore. I have a foil from when I had my Nekusar deck, and I just don't think that this art is all that interesting.
No, this is my first time seeing this. I think, as I mentioned when we started talking about this, I didn't see this Secret Lair drop at all. Yeah. I didn't see any advertisement for it. I saw nothing for it. So this is the first time I've seen this. This is pretty bland, in my opinion.
Right. It's a modern art style. It kind of looks like a warning label.
Yep.
I don't know. It's okay, but I have no interest in this card. So I basically got the 3 cards that I wanted for the price of the drop. After the fact, I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. If all the cards that I buy for the $50 for those 3 cards, if they drop $20, I'm okay with that because I firmly believe in 2 years or whatever, they're going to be at least what I paid for them.
Right. I mean,
that doesn't matter.
You should always expect that whatever you buy should, have some type of a swing in price, whether it's positive or negative, by some degree. Realistically, if you're looking to flip these, you're going to flip these, 6, 12, 18 months later.
Yeah.
And that's when you're going to see the price increase. That's when you're going to see the price, after it's stabilized, it's going to increase because people, after seeing them in people's hands, they go, oh, I really like that artwork, or I really like the foiling on that. Now that I get to see it, now I want one.
Exactly. When you play that Grim Tutor and somebody else at your EDH table looks over and is like, what is that?
Yep.
Is that a proxy? No, that's a real Magic card, baby.
That's when people are gonna take notice and say, I actually want that for my own deck.
Yeah.
So
I'm a big fan. I'm hoping that, let's see.
I think they'll do well.
I think they'll do fine, but I'm also not trying to spec on those.
Yeah.
I just want one each for my modern decks. I mean, I already have a Grim Tutor in the Vial Smasher Sakashima deck. I'll just move that into whatever my next deck is, or I'll put it in my trade binder.
Yeah, absolutely.
I, just thinking about cards, when I was in our local shop the other day, I asked Sean, hey, what do you got behind the counter? And I started going through and I pulled out a couple of Verdant Catacombs. And somebody else was there, it was GB, said, oh, is that a spec? And I was like, no, I'm going to put my foils in a trade binder and my modern collection is going to be non-foils. And I got 2 Verdant Catacombs, a Lotus Bloom, and something else for $40.
Okay. That's not bad.
From a game store, that's not bad at all. Like the one verdant catacomb would have been $40 a year ago or more.
Absolutely.
And
playsets used to hit 200 for those.
Yeah. So I was pretty happy with that. It's
that actually reminds me. I also have to finish picking up fetch lands, just to have on hand.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to probably use half of them, but if I can have play sets of Marsh Flats and Maces and everything else, and I'll be off to a good start.
And there's right, as you pointed out a few weeks ago, there is no time like the present.
No, those fetches are cheap.
Don't worry about your Shocklands right now.
Nope.
Shocklands, put those on the back burner. We've got that new unset coming out that has all wild shocks.
Those are sweet.
They are sweet. Maybe we'll talk about those next week.
Yeah, we could do that.
But because we'll be getting closer to, they're supposed to come out in April. Originally, they were supposed to come out in April, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't buy a Shockland right now, but I would definitely get your fetch lands. Because once all the people like me that are degenerate enough to replace their Shocklands with the fancy space Shocklands, I'm going to have a bunch of regular Shocklands that I'm going to be trying to part with, and the price will drop. So let's talk about some events.
Yep.
You mentioned it earlier. We're going to an event together this year.
We are. I think this will be your first in-person 1K since COVID.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this 1K is at the same game store that I went to beginning of February with some of our local store people. It's in New Hampshire.
Is that Next Gen?
Next Gen Comics. Yep. So it's going to be a good time.
How many rounds was it the last time?
Ours was only 5. So the last one was actually one of their smaller events. When I was there talking to the store owner, they usually have upwards of like 50, 60 people. We only had, I think, 38, 39, something like that. Okay. So there was only 5 rounds. It is a very small store, so it's gonna be a little cramped. But
was it cramped with even 40 people?
No, it was okay.
Okay.
So if they hit the 50, 60 people that they're used to having, it might be a little cramped.
Gotcha.
But that'll be okay. But we've got that coming up.
That's an all-day thing, leaving Bangor, Maine at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yep. Well, yes. Yeah, we're going to be leaving at 6 from our store, and it's like a 2.5, 3 hour drive down.
Oh, God.
Yep. And then we get to play through, 5, 6 rounds of Magic all day, basically, and then drive 2.5, 3 hours home.
Woo! But it is going to be fun to play in a competitive event. I'm not giving anything away here, probably to our audience, to say that I'm going to be playing Black White Hammer. You don't have to say what you're on.
I'll probably be on Rhinos.
Yeah.
Fish has not been doing too well for me recently at these events, so I'll probably play Rhinos. I have been testing with Fish still on Moto, but we'll see.
Yeah. I thought about the blue-white list, but I haven't found anything yet that sold me on it. I haven't found a lot of people streaming the blue-white list. I haven't found a lot of YouTube VODs of gameplay with the blue-white list to see what it does for me. Other than, we talked about it a fair bit last week.
We did.
Other than Lavinia seems really good in the meta, and having some spell pierces in the board, I just don't think that the reality chip is enough reason for me to change my whole deck, my mana base, and alter my game strategy.
That's fair. I also haven't really seen a lot of people talk about it. I've seen a few streams, and it's still putting up results, as we'll see shortly.
Yeah.
But I haven't really seen it play out, right? And I've seen it played against me in Hammer List, and I've realized that when it's on the field, when it's attached to a creature, I don't care. They can play 4 or 5 things off the top of their library. I just don't care. It's not as strong as I thought it was initially.
Yeah.
And listening to a few other podcasts talk about it, it's not as good as probably a hammer would be otherwise.
Yep.
So
I will say I'm interested. So I've always had a spicy one of in most of my decks. Like that's a thing I like to do.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that this card is spicy, but for the last 6 months, I've had a Lightning Greaves in there.
That's right.
And because playing that early and being able to play, say, Stoneforge Mystic, equip it, and you can automatically put in an equipment, or you make a Construct and equip it. It can swing on a turn where people really weren't ready for that. Can be really powerful. But I'm taking that out this weekend for a Lion Sash.
It's probably the correct call.
Yeah, probably. It's having a little bit of incidental graveyard hate is great. Really just going up on creature count is probably also good. Going into a heavy Grixis, likely,
Yeah, there
removal heavy format seems good.
Yeah, there was a lot of Grixis Death Shadow and Burn at the last 1K there, so I expect it to be pretty similar.
Yeah. I tried to play Tuesday night and got to play a couple of test games. Tuesday didn't fire. I had one game where I got to play Lion Sash and hide it under something.
Okay.
So that I could either chump and still end up with a creature.
And make that one bigger. As you exile stuff.
And I got to equip it with Pure Steel Paladin, which was a conversation that my very well-informed opponent said, wait, what? Why can you do that? And Pure Steel Paladin says, equipment you have, as long as you have Metalcraft, equipment you have, gain 0 to equip.
Yep.
So those cards do work every way I want to in Hammer. I can tutor them with Stoneforge Mystic. I can equip them with Pure Steel Paladin. I can equip them with Sigarda's Aid. So I think playing with the Lion Sash in the main deck is going to be awesome. I have also fully defoiled that deck as of Tuesday. Thank you. So I don't even have like the random one of foil in my sideboard. Another conversation that I had, and actually this would be a good conversation to have. I know we want to talk about the rest of these decks, and we've already been talking for 40 minutes, but I was arguing that potentially in my deck, March of Otherworldly Light is better than Prismatic Ending.
So the differences between those two cards is one's sorcery, one's instant.
Yes.
One can hit Planeswalkers, one cannot hit Planeswalkers. March of Otherworldly Light, I think, does not hit Planeswalkers.
Really?
If I'm not mistaken.
Now I'm like, this is such a new card. I thought it was any number of white cards, artifact, creature, or enchantment. Okay, so that's true. I can't hit a Wrenn and 6 with it.
Can't hit Wrenn and 6, can't hit 3-drop Teferi. Can't hit anything else after that.
But so the only thing that I'll say about that is, in order to hit 3-drop Teferi, I have to have a black-white land and a red-white land, or I have to have Springleaf Drum.
Yep.
And I might have to have 2 Springleaf Drums in play in order to hit a Teferi.
Okay. I mean, with Springleaf Drum, you should be able to hit that third color pretty easily.
No, for people that are listening, I'm not playing a Fetch Shock mana base.
That's fair.
So
you're just playing with white, black, or white, whatever, dual lands, and then basics?
Right. So I'm on probably an 8-month-old base list as far as I'm running 5 Canopy lands.
Okay.
I'm running 4 black-white Canopy lands and 1 red-white Canopy land.
Okay.
And then 4 Ink Moths, 4 Sigarda's Aid, and the rest are Snow Plains.
Okay. I mean, there's probably argument for it.
And that was, my thought was, like, pay 1, pitch a Esper Sentinel in my hand, get rid of a Teferi on their turn. But if it's just getting out blockers or getting out hate pieces, getting rid of a Stony Silence, getting rid of I'm never going to get rid of a Karn the Great Creator.
True.
With Prismatic Ending.
Nope.
Potentially could with March of Otherworldly Light. So
if it could actually hit Planeswalkers, which it can't.
Oh God.
Which is probably the biggest complaint
Drawback,
between
yeah.
right. It is the biggest drawback, right? You can't hit Planeswalkers. Planeswalkers in Modern are pretty prevalent between Ren and 6, 3-drop to Fairy, Great Creator.
Yeah.
You're gonna see those most of the time, probably. So being able to deal with those without dealing creature damage.
Right. And I guess in what it all comes down to in the conversation that we had with GB and I was I need to be more aggressive with the deck if that's in mulliganing or in my play, that I'm looking for the turn 3 kill. If I don't have that, it's because I'm not going to mull to 4, but that really should be my aim. So even if they get a Karn in play, I should have what I need to at least take the Karn out.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of, what the prismatic ending is bad against Murktide.
It's bad against Murktide. It's bad against anything for CMC or greater, basically. Because in your build, you can't hit that 4th colored mana.
Yeah,
So,
even in the best case scenario.
Yep.
But hitting that even with March of Otherworldly Light, I'd have to pitch. I maybe could pay 3 mana into it and pitch a card to hit. But
right, you're then sacrificing so many resources from your hand to deal with that, and is it really worth that?
And this is why the better black-white lists are running Thoughtseize. and maybe I will change my mind again tomorrow before I fill out my deck list and go to the Fetch Shock black-white Thoughtseize list.
We still have 2 days. You're fine.
Oh, that's right. We still have 2 days. I have
Thursday and Friday.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's spend a little bit of time just going over the mocks, going over the modern super qualifier, and I want to talk a little bit about Pioneer.
Sure. Let's do that.
Let's do it really quick.
So,
Mocks.
the mocks. This is the biggest Magic Online event for those that might not know. It's the biggest online event. You have to qualify for this. You cannot just buy into it. It's always 8 people, and they play for. I think this was $20,000.
$20,000.
And it's usually split between 3 rounds of a draft format and 3 rounds of a constructed format, which I believe is usually modern, maybe vintage. This time around, it was modern
And vintage.
vintage draft.
Oh, interesting.
So they have vintage cube draft right now on Moto, and I believe they did 3 rounds of that and 3 rounds of modern. So. And the person that won it, Nathan
Stewart?
Sure. They went 3-0 in both draft and constructed.
Damn.
So they were undeniable winner of this event. But the top 8, or the only 8 people that were there, the only 8 decks that were there, Death Shadow, 4-color Urion, Crashing Footfalls, another Death Shadow, Hammer Time, Landless Belcher, Red Deck Wins, and Blue-Black Mill.
So it's very interesting for such a small meta tournament where people know there's only 7 other players. Each of them brought a deck that they thought would be really good in that environment. 2 of them brought Death Shadow. We're gonna hear a lot about Death Shadow. But then you have all of the people like that think 4-color Urion can beat anything. Crashing Footfalls has the ability to beat anything. Hammer Time has the draws to beat anything. Belcher, if you can't interact with it, can kill you on turn 2. Red Deck Wins, Staple, Mill, my nemesis.
That's probably the only oddball. The only outlier of these 8 decks is Blue-Black Mill. But this person probably thought this isn't going to be on anybody's radar. They're all testing for whatever top 4 decks are in the meta or in the format, and I'm just going to play Mill.
Yeah, and honestly, when you look at these lists, Mill is good against Death Shadow if they're not countering everything. Mill is great against Hammer. How is Tasha's Hideous Laughter against Belcher? I don't know.
That's Belcher and 4-color Urion are probably the only 2 decks
that were really
out of this top 8 that would be bad matchups for it. Belcher basically plays all of the spell lands from
Right, which are relatively high cost.
So those hitting those off of Atasha's Hideous Laughter is not gonna feel great.
Yeah.
So, but like any other deck from this list is fine.
Yeah. Seagate Restoration and Amira's Call will shut down Tasha's Hideous Laughter pretty quick.
Yeah.
But very, interesting, and all decks that we've talked about each week, like there's nothing, Blue Black Mill being the only oddball, and I don't even think that's odd anymore.
No, it's been popping up at least as a one of in top 32s for most of the events, so...
Now, how about the Super Qualifier on the 27th?
So...
What was notable about this, Zach?
So, I saw this on Twitter and immediately had to ship it to Brad because it was going to be very easy to talk about. The top 4, not even top 8, just the top 5 were all Lairs decks. The top 4 were all Grixis Death Shadow decks. So, once again, companions take over and rule top 8s. Something needs to be done, something doesn't need to be done. That's your opinion.
Yeah. Yep.
Banning Lairs isn't really going to make these decks any different because people are so used to playing with these configurations, these 75s, without Lairs. What's it realistically going to do? They're not going to be able to rebuy Mishra's Bubbles? Okay. They can't rebuy a dead creature in the yard? Okay. It's not really going to change how the deck plays.
And this is similar to the conversation about Black-White Hammer. The games in which I can actually play Lairs are so few and far between, and usually you're already behind at that point, like you're trying to grind. It feels amazing when you win because of Lairs, but it's 1 in 20 that makes the difference.
Yeah.
The deck on its own merits, and this is true mono white, black white, blue white, the first 46 cards in that deck could win on their own, whatever the other 16 cards are.
Yep.
So if you get rid of Lairs, Hammer is still a competitive deck. Grixis Death Shadow is still going to be a killer deck. I don't think it's worth banning for the feel-bads, but I think that the problem is we're going to ban, if they do ban it, we're going to look at the same meta game in 2 months
and still see these same decks.
So
the rest of the top 8 for this event, Red White Prowess, which again is a Lairs deck, Amulet Titan, Black Green Yawgmoth, and 4-color Creativity. Notable mentions are two more Living In decks in 9th and 10th. I think they might be the same people from last week that top 8'd back to back, but
a good reason to have Lion Sash in my deck.
Yep, Lion Sash. Another good reason to have Chalice of the Voids in your 75, probably somewhere.
Lavinia.
Just put it back on your radar for things to be known. Basically, just be aware of it. It might be there. Maybe have a plan for it. Don't hope to dodge it. You'll be crushed every time.
Right. Understand, and we haven't really done this. Maybe this could even be next week's episode. We'll talk about the event, but understanding how these decks work gives you a game plan in the match.
It does.
When you sit down and you see the first play or two, the land and creature, or the land and spell, or even sometimes just the land. If you see a Dark-Select Shores on turn 1, there's only like 3 decks in Modern you're starting to think of.
Yep.
Right? Mill. What else?
You put me on the spot. I don't know. I can't think of the top of my head. Mill's definitely one of them. It used to be Ad Nauseam.
Ad Nauseam would be a huge one, yeah.
Unfortunately, that deck has kind of died with the banning of Simon Spirit Guide, but
yeah,
I still see it from time to time.
Eggs, a lot of like weird artifact decks for some reason will run the black-blue fast land. Amulet Titan is in this list. Dryad of the Elysian Grove Secret Lair is a good pickup. All right, we're running out of time, so I'm going to start sneaking snap this up.
That's fine. Let's do that.
Fit into some of these lists.
Actually, let's pull up the list of snap ups.
Of snap ups. So, just looking at again, I went deep looking for info on all the Secret Lair drop stuff, And the Dryad of the Elysian Grove Secret Lair is the nicest one. They're 25 for non-foils, 35 for foils. It's an EDH card. It's a modern 4 of. Amulet is not going anywhere. I don't think. And those have been out for a while, so their price is settled.
Mm-hmm.
I think that their price can only go up, and I don't think that they have a reason to print another fancy version of Dryad.
Probably not. The only place that they might see it, maybe not in Double Masters 2, that's coming out later this year, but maybe another specialty product like that.
Yeah.
If it's land-focused, maybe.
Yeah.
If there is a land-focused secret lair, we might get that there, I guess. But you're right. Like they really don't have a need or a reason to put this anywhere else.
And it's not a card. It's not a card like Wrenn and 6 that's $100+ that they're being pressured to reprint. So, and it's not a card that's played in multiple decks that is pressuring it for the reprint. And so those cards that are always played in a deck that see play in multiple formats, but are not the chase cards, I think go a little longer before the reprint. What were you looking at? What's one you were looking at?
So actually, to piggyback off of Dryad, Augur of Autumn kind of does something similar to Druid. It doesn't allow you to play extra lands, but it does allow you to play cards from the top of your library, which I think it allows you to play lands. So if you actually have both in play, you can play lands off the top of your library. So
Look at this.
Augur of Autumn is a 1 generic and double green. It's a 2/3. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands from the top card of your library at any time. So with this in Druid, you can just play lands. Now, it does have
another ability
called Coven. I think I said that right.
Coven. Yep.
Coven. As long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, so different power levels, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. So in EDH,
this is an all-star.
This is great because your creatures are almost always going to be different powers.
Right, you're going to have 3 or more creatures in a green deck in EDH, and it's creatures with different powers, so it counts itself.
It does.
So if you have a 1/1, this, and a 3/3, now you can play creatures and lands from the top of your deck.
Yep. And you can, with Druid in play, you can play an additional land. So if you hit double lands off the top of your library, you just play both of those. Oh, look, you hit a string of creatures. Great.
Right, this is like a Courser of Crewfix that says you're not going to gain life, but you could have more incidental value. And Courser is like a 1/4?
It's a 2. I think it's the same power as Druid, so I think it's a 2/4.
Oh.
It might be a 2. It's been a while since I've seen a Courser Crewfix.
Me too. And I'm intrigued, like, if these two are on the battlefield side by side, it's 2/4. Okay. So I was like, do these two work together? Because obviously Courser is another absolute staple in green EDH. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I might replace Courser or Crewfix with this.
Now, this is, I didn't talk about the price. This is only $6.
Yeah.
There's no fancy versions of it, unfortunately. The only, like, quote-unquote fancy one or premium one is the black and white one from the double feature Innistrad set that came out, which isn't really that big of a hit. That one's going for about 7 on TCG. So, non-foil is going for about 5. Foil is probably going for about 6. Pick up a few for your green-red creature-based EDH.
Yeah.
EDH decks, this will be fine.
And again, Midnight Hunt is going to be in print. It's going to be in stores for a while, but this is not the flavor of the week. And we have more sets coming out in April.
Yep.
Like, there are fresh cards coming out in April, and Midnight Hunt is going to feel like an old set.
Mid-year.
Yeah, I think there's just so many cards coming out. Like, this is a Commander staple.
I think it should be.
I think that's why we're looking at a rare from a few months ago. That's not a modern play card. That's probably not really a standard play card. Is already $550. Why is this card $550? I think that's a great indicator. Oh, you know what? We've been talking this whole time. I haven't had it on the screen, I don't think. Augur of Autumn, 1 green, 2/3 human druid. Also a relevant creature type.
Yep.
Look at the top card of your library. You may play lands. Interesting. And those Coven abilities are really underrated. I just put the Werewolf Pack Leader, the green 3/3. I put that in my mono green Foreign Collects deck because if you attack with 6 power, you draw a card. In a mono green creatures deck, you want to be attacking with at least 6 power. It just seemed like a no-brainer.
I think his ability and Arga's ability are probably the two best Corvin abilities that I can think of off the top of my head, at least.
Back on my secret lair joint.
I actually looked at this as a possible snap up. I'm glad I didn't pick it.
Darksteel Citadel Secret Lair drop is a wicked cool looking card.
It is.
It's a very distinct art. It's this pixelated, like 8-bit game or 16-bit game art style. It's about $15 in non-foil.
Say, what is it foil? Because
$15. And, these are all onesie twosies. When you get up to this company, Vegas Singles, they've got about 30 of them at $20 a piece. Mm-hmm. This is a card this is a 4 of play card in Modern.
And in Legacy.
It's, if we look at all versions, you will notice it's the only premium version of Darksteel Citadel. I think this is probably a no-brainer too. I want to have 4 of these. Yeah. I don't necessarily want my Modern decks foiled out anymore. Doesn't mean I don't want them blinged out.
Yep. Well, and for EDH, having that, if you're trying to bling out an EDH deck, it doesn't have to be artifact based for this card, but just anything that wants, generic mana, and if it's artifact.
Yep. It's indestructible
if it's
for those
themed,
that don't know.
It's just.
I just think this is a no-brainer where it is the only fancy version of a card that sees play as a 4 of. People are experimenting with every kind of artifact deck. I mean, they're playing Consulate Dreadnought, for God's sake. Oh my God. What else you got?
The other snap I had, the snap this up was the Wandering Empire.
Emperor.
Excuse me.
Yep.
From the new set. It's seeing play in Pioneer, same as my other one, the Augur of Autumn. But this was seeing play as a 3 of in a control list that did well in a Pioneer event. And I think I've seen it off and on in Modern a little bit. I think this is just going to be a great constructed card once we get things going a little bit more. Once it sees more play, people catch on to it more. I think this has grounds for being good.
For being playable.
I've
been playing this in Historic in a blue-white artifact deck that is pretty much a brew. It's probably not a whole lot different from what other people have tried to do in blue-white, but playing against a Death Shadow player last night in Historic, and Death Shadow was really the only big threat I had to worry about, was like chump, trade with another creature, chump, get to 4 mana, let them swing their 8/8 Death Shadow at me, flash this in and exile it, scoop.
Nice.
So I like this pick. I think that this is an interesting snap this up. I mean, again, it's an imprint mythic from a set that's being opened up a ton. What does it drop down to? $10, $8?
Right. Right now it's 13. If you're looking at foil or the pre-release stamps, you're looking at 24, 26, depending.
Yeah. But
this also doesn't show the alternate anime version, which is like upwards of $100. So don't worry about that.
We're not.
Unless you open one, hold on to it. It's only going to go up. But just a regular one, $14. Easy to grab. Do it now.
Yep.
It will fluctuate. It is standard. It's a standard legal card, but
I put Pioneer in here because I wanted to talk more about Pioneer. I think it really looks like a fun format, and that's definitely a card.
Yep.
That is totally in that power level. I also see we had some notes here about talking about the pro players that are going out to basically to the public and saying, hey, we're not going to get supported from SCG anymore. So
Yeah, a lot of them have started posting on social media what their plans are. A lot of them are going to Patreon for their incomes. For they're gonna do
wild.
They're gonna set up Discords, stuff like that. I'm probably gonna look into doing a few of them just because I want to support them. Like it's something that they obviously now need. And
they need another income stream if they're going to stay in Magic as a content creator.
Right. And I strongly suggest that for any of you that had favorite content creators that you wanted to follow, look on social media, try to find what they're doing, and go support them that way.
That's awesome. I think that's a great thing to close out on. You've been listening to the SnapCast podcast with Zach Muller and Brad O'Brien.
Catch you guys next time.
We'll catch you next time.